Dishwasher's installed. It's full of ice. I hope not broken. You watching this, Brandon? Ball joints. If your front end is loose and the thing wanders all over the road, could be your alignment's off. I need to put those camber adjusters in that your beekeeper told me about, the camber adjusters. Moog sells a ball joint. See, the bottom is greasable, but the top on GM's was greasable. If you removed the cap in the ball joint, I have to lie down on the... Let me get a piece of cardboard. It is chilly. I'm going to show you a few little tricks that I've learned over the years. And I don't know if they're tricks or just Sprite. I thought I'd find a piece of cardboard here. I've got a piece of plywood. That is good enough. Plywood. Suburban. Drop in this box of Sprite. So anyhow, if the ball joints are worn, they won't cause it to wander as much as loose tie rods slash out of alignment. And if the ball joints are bad, you need a bench vise attached to a big bench. Whoops! Because you have to remove this whole knuckle. Whoops, got it upside down. On the Turbo Suburban Chevy GMC, this tie rod connector, pitman arm, tie rod connector, call it what you want, short tie rod, long arm tie rod, make a couple of different versions. But this was loose and this is easy to change. Why anybody wouldn't grease this? It's so easy. Right there out in the breeze. Take off the nut. If it's rusty, just hammer a socket on and wrench it off and take the cotter pin out of the stud after. It's a lot easier than trying to take it out before. Rust. If this tie rod's loose, you can just change it by undoing that nut, undoing the steering damper. It's leaking. Then you hammer on the side here, leave the nut on a few threads so you don't hit the stud and wreck the threads. Just hammer on that and it'll just pop out. Don't hammer on the stud from the top. No, no, no. Hammer on the side and it'll release the stud and ba-ding, fall down, and you unscrew the rest of the threads on the nut. If this tie rod's loose, and you can tell if it's loose by having someone jump in the vehicle, just turn the steering back and forth just a little bit, not a lot. Just wiggle it back and forth. Wiggle, 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 wiggle. You'll see where the looseness is. Now, if you want to check the ball joints, you can grip the wheel from 6 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and crank on it. But that's kind of hard, and you can't see if anything's loose because you're cranking on this huge wheel. Jack it up by the axle. Put a 2x4 right here, and then a long 2x4 or a long piece of pipe, 4, 5, 6 feet long, a couple meters long, and you push down on the wheel 2x4, which lifts up the wheel actually. So you push down the 2x4, which is fulcrumed under here. So the 2x4 is there, a brick or a 2x4 is sideways here, and you crank on the wheel, and that lifts the wheel up. And with someone looking with a flashlight, you can tell if the ball joints are loose. And if they're loose, it's a big job to change them. Got to take out those nuts on top, and they've got conically shaped washers that don't like to be removed. They're washer, what would you call them? They're angled washer nuts, and they're a bear to get off. Don't wreck them. Don't hit them with a prick punch to try to remove what you think is a flat washer, because you'll make a mess. Probably better to hammer up on this big steering arm if you got to change the ball joints, but that's a big job. And once you change the ball joints, you might want to change that universal joint right in there, because it's a common wear item, and only use a Spicer made in USA. Don't get no China junk tough joint made in China crap. They don't last. So it could be this tie rod, Could be the tie rod at the other end. Or it could be this link right here. Or it could be your steering box is worn. And I got a Laris rebuilt steering box in Minnesota. And I ain't too happy with the performance. There's still some looseness. So I'm going to have someone that I know, a good friend of mine, open one up and we're going to see what's involved and rebuild them ourselves. Put a light torsion spring in so we don't have excess pressure. Now I was telling you about the Moog problem solvers. And what they are is a ball joint that instead of having the grease fitting directly on the bottom where it hits the U-joint, so you got to take it off and put a cap, it has a grease fitting right there. Where am I? Somewhere, right there. Grease fitting right there. I'll zoom in on it. You can barely see it because it's full of grease, which is a good thing. There. See that grease fitting? Wouldn't it be nice if GM would have put that grease fitting on? But they didn't. So you've got to get a Moog problem solver. Easy to find, Rock Auto or LMC. Rust just creeping around the corner. I can't believe it. I put so much fluid film in this thing. Rust on the oil pan. Gonna have to sandblast that this spring and spray some black paint and fluid film. Can't take this rust. It's just unrelenting. Salt, 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 salt. So that's the deal. Check your ball joints. If this was a 2x4, just imagine it's a 2x4. Stick the 2x4 there. You take a long one, piece of pipe, something real solid, or a long 2x4 or 2x6, and you fulcrum the wheel so the wheel goes up and down. And you have somebody else check it real carefully for play on the upper and lower ball joints. The tie rods you do by grabbing the wheel at 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock. Wiggle it back and forth. Or you jump inside the cab, have your honey, thermometer, have your honey, click, click, wiggle the wheel, just like this. Not a lot. And you watch for play, right there. That's the steering box clunking. See how much you move it? Not a lot. Oh, hello. Us men and women, we all look alike. It's okay. I'll forgive you this time. One-time exception. Sweet girl. 5, new bathroom this past summer. Volvo, start it up cold and drive away, just like a light switch. Yeah, burn a little oil. Lubricates the inside of the exhaust pipe. Some people just don't understand. Let me play here. That's the steering box clunking away. Can I get a video on it? Why is it clunking? I don't know. Oh, smell that oil smoke. Definitely ain't loose in the frame because I did a hot rotors modification a couple years ago. I put in a steering reinforcement triangulation arm that reinforces the frame because the frame is only a single wall. It's not double walled. They should have done it, but they didn't. They don't care. So I put in this reinforcing arm so it triangulates the steering box to the front cross member. Easy to find part. Just look at the rust. Ah! Why are you rusting? Yep, gonna have to sand that off. Fluid film rubs off when you go through deep snowbanks, and then the rust, the tin worm starts working. See, that salt is just everywhere. Need some more fluid film. Alrighty, I'm freezing.